are live once again with my great friend Larry Johnson. Larry, how are you doing?
I am well. I am well. I see
I
you're sporting the Pink Floyd T-shirt. There you go.
yeah, you're not well. You're on fire. You're probably walking on clouds. You just had an amazing conversation with Roger Waters,
And
and I will tell. Yeah,
now I
go
get to
ahead.
have an amazing conversation with you. Okay.
Yeah, of
It's just
course.
he's a, the only difference between you and him is he's a better lyricist than you, and probably plays the guitar better.
I'm not sure. No, of course. No, the man is just amazing. The conversation was amazing. I will tell everybody. I'll put the link on the description later. Just watch that interview. You can find all the links, of course, on Sonar 21 that Larry posts there. And well, I would like to talk a little bit about that, just a little bit, very quickly, because I think Roger made a very interesting point. That is something that I've been telling here for a long time, about Trump being a thief and a simpleton. That was amazing. I've been telling for a long time that all this, uh, um, tariffs and market manipulation, this is just a big thievery. It's
Yeah.
just a big robbery, you know, moving the money from ordinary people to very, very wealthy people. What do you think about that, Larry?
Um, let's call it the law of maybe it's intended, maybe it's the law of unintended consequences. Um, I do think Trump is sincere in wanting to reignite the industrial base of the United States, but I don't think I thought this through strategically. And in his quest for headlines, he's opted to use tariffs as the path forward. You know, if you have a monopoly control over a product, if you have something that everybody needs, then you're in a position where you can impose additional costs on those people because they'll have to deal with you. They don't have another choice. They don't have another option. But um, if you know, you're selling soybeans and your neighbor's selling soybeans and the guy around the corner is selling soybeans and there are multiple soybean producers and you decide, "Oh, I'm going to punish anybody, if you want to buy my soybeans, I'm going to make you pay more, you're going to charge a tariff." Well, people just say, "Well, screw him, we're going next door or we're going around the corner." There are other options. So the tariffs influence decision making and will lead people to choose other options, and that's what is starting to happen. It's not. It was not an immediate, dramatic blow like a guillotine falling and chopping someone's head off, but it is more like a sand castle at the beach, and the waves run in and take a little bit away, and then we can run in, take a little bit away, run in, and then all of a sudden the castle collapses. That's what Donald Trump is doing. He's set in motion the erosion of the financial base of not just the U.S. economy, but I think the global economy, at least one centered on the United States. So we'll see. I think this is going to come to a head in September. It's like with Brazil. They put sanctions on Brazilian coffee. Gee, nobody else in the world wants to drink coffee. The United States is the only buyer of coffee. Please.
And it's probably he doesn't understand exactly how it works at the moment because you mentioned coffee. That's very precise what you did because just 2 days ago, it was noticed in Brazil that 160 coffee and some other agricultural products companies were were allowed, let's call it like that, to do business with China. Chinese government
Yeah,
allowed these companies.
I was surprised they hadn't been allowed to do that previously. Is that true?
No, I mean, it's a trade deal allowed, let's call it
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. So China said, yeah, no, come in, come in, come in. And the thing that people perhaps in the US does not understand properly is that, well, right now, the biggest dealer of coffee, for example, in the world is Germany. Uh, there, I live in Europe. There is not one coffee plant in Europe. One
Yeah.
in my garden, like that. No, there is not one. Basically, all this coffee come from around the world. It's processed.
By the way, it's a bush.
It's a bush. Yeah, a bush of coffee. English is not my first language.
No, I know. I'm just expressing my colonial imperialist roots.
I have friends that say I don't want to learn English because I don't want to master the language of the master. I say, so the master will just master you without knowing what he's talking about.
Yeah, no, I saw the whole coffee growing process up close and personal when I lived in Honduras. And I mean, I lived in the Campo and up in the mountains. When it came time to harvest the coffee, they'd bring in these, big bags, and there was a stone patio. And so they get the beans that get spread out on the stone patio to start drying in the initial stages. Of course, what they didn't, what most Americans drinking that coffee don't know is there were chickens walking all over those beans too, taking a crap on the beans. And so you had to make sure they were extra washed, or you got a special flavor. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt your story.
Honduran chicken.
Yeah. Tastes like chicken.
Tastes like chicken. Interesting. Yeah, and so probably what's going to happen now is, as you mentioned, the soybeans is the same thing. What's going to happen is that Brazil is going to sell coffee to China. China will process it and sell it back to the United States with a premium, of course, which has already happened with Germany and Italy and all these countries that have a big coffee industry. But in any case, some years ago, also, the United States, while Bolsonaro was the president, the United States wanted to buy all Brazilian soybeans. And that was pretty clear that they wanted to have the monopoly of soybeans, especially to China, which is a big buyer of soybeans.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise. And doing that, I don't think he understands how things work. And you're absolutely right, as usual, as always.
Yeah.
Larry.
Always sure, not always right. Always sure.
Always sure. What they are doing is slightly moving all the world away from them. We discussed this a couple of weeks ago. Brazil, and you made this point on The Judge this week, and with Roger Waters as well. And this is something that I show people on my channel every time with the Atlas of Economic Complexity from Harvard. If you get the 2000s, the United States represented like 27% of Brazilian economic balance. Today, it's 8%, followed by Argentina with 5%. So not even that far away from Argentina, which is right now a very poor country.
Yeah.
And China today is this 28%. And you mentioned this, the entire world, Brazil is a very specific example that I gave, but the entire world now trades with China more than with the United States. So
that's the key. Yeah.
Yeah. So it amuses me when I hear, the dude with the chick's name talking about, I think the world is going to pick Americans' economy. Does these people even realize there is no more American economy?
Yeah, well, I mean, the American economy, it's a financial economy. And what I mean by that is it's not producing anything tangible, like Google. Well, okay, so yeah, it's a browser, it's software. Producing software is very important, but it's not the same as being able to actually produce the aluminum or the other metal or the composites that produce the actual computer or watch or smartphone. There has to be those industrial processes that can come together, and then to give the software the platform that it can then, be used or be useful. And that's where the United States is falling down. And, I don't see how it recaptures that without making some major structural changes. And normally the only way you get those kinds of structural changes is in the aftermath of a war. So maybe that's where we're headed.
So this is a personal question, an opinion question. There is no way the United States just sit down as grown-up men, people, and think, well, we could reform the country without need of a revolution or whatever. We could just reform things to go back to the track that we were when we were a very industrialized country. We talked about this a lot of times, Larry, when you mentioned your father and even your youth, that you could, immediately rise to the middle class by just going out of school and joining a factory.
Right. Yeah.
Do you think could it be possible to the government of the United States just sit down and rearrange itself? Well, not itself, of course.
I mean, look, it's a theoretical possibility, but the practical reality is that's not going to happen. In fact, we're seeing right now with Donald Trump, he's a captive really to the deep state. There's some things he's doing to fulfill some promises, but in a large number of cases, no. And he's taken steps that are going to be very damaging to him politically and to the country. And, his arrogance, his narcissism just prevents him from having the humility to say, you know what, I may not be entirely sure about what I'm doing, and maybe I need to ask someone else for help. You've never heard those words coming out of his mouth. He's the best. He knows everything. He's smart. Like I said, I'm exhausted from listening to him.
I can tell that almost every week you just say that goddamn moron speaking like that again, which I was hearing Professor Sachs today in Judge Napolitana, and one point that he was making is that not only Trump is not doing that, but there seems to be an absolute silence in the US government in general, everywhere, both parties. So it really looks like everything is rotting at this moment.
Well, the traditional political system is breaking down. In the traditional system, as Donald Trump becomes more unpopular, you would see support shift to the Democrats, them becoming more popular. But you're not seeing that now. Basically, everybody's saying, man, I hate them both. They want something else. And the something else exists out there as the Libertarian Party, but, so far it hasn't attracted a flood of attention. It needs somebody with a little more charisma to run it or to lead it. But the U.S. political system is, I think, headed towards chaos.
Yeah, just to finish that, Larry, we've seen that it looks like Trump has backtracked a little bit on that 50% tariff on Brazil, and at the same time, I hear, the dude with the chick's name talking about.
You mean Lindsey Graham?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
that one. Talking about imposing, very strong tariffs on, precisely India, China, and Brazil from buying Russian oil. Do you think that the government, what do you think Trump or the government or whoever is behind Trump is doing with backtracking a little bit this tariffs to Brazil? and at the same time pushing into 100% tariffs for, of course, BRICS countries.
Well, again, we got to separate out the words from the actions. How many of these tariffs are actually being enforced and collected? You remember with China, 150%, except that hasn't happened. And the agreement's been pushed out 90 days. So trade goes on, except China has already reacted by saying, oh, those rare earth minerals and magnets, screw you. We're not sending those are cut off now. We're not going to allow you to arm yourself so you can come attack us with the very things that we provided. So they're imposing some, restrictions on how those can be used. And if they don't get that kind of guarantee and assurances, they're going to stop shipping it. The United States has no alternative to China's rare earth minerals. It's not the actual minerals. We got those. There's a big pile of them here, 20, 30 minutes from my house, just north. But the processing to produce the actual rare earth mineral, what comes out of the rare earth mineral to produce a particular metal or particular compound, those are extremely dirty. And, China was never known for its environmental concern. So they've now basically cornered the market on it. It's not to say the United States could not eventually do that, but again, to create a processing facility and to get it up and running, it's not a matter of something you do in 6 months or a year. It takes longer.
Plus all the legislation behind it, and the pushback from the Greens and all those people.
Right.
That's extremely important point, because during this this craziness in Brazil, we can watch the media and we can see which part of the media actually shows something and which part of the media is just bought with the narrative or paid by the narrative. And one of the points that they've been talking about is that, well, yeah, Brazil has a lot of these rare earth minerals, and this could go to the table to minimize the impacts of the U.S. tariffs on Brazil. So what you're just saying is that it really doesn't matter that much if you get it from somewhere else apart from China, because it's not processed anywhere else in any way.
But that's, lots of different countries will have the actual raw material, the raw mineral, but that has to be processed to produce something that's usable, that you can, put in, whether it's antimony that's going to be used in making high explosives. You got, you have to have the processing facility. That's what doesn't exist. That's why the United States is in trouble on that front. Magnets that go into cars, electric vehicles, drone engines. There's another, China is the major producer of drone engines, particularly the smaller ones. U.S. doesn't have that system in place. Russia's been catching up in some areas, but again, there are too many areas of vulnerability for the United States, both also in the pharmaceutical side of the house. Pharmaceuticals, including vitamins that go for animals, for husbandry, that are essential for producing chicken and pork. If China cuts those off, U.S. is screwed. Its food supply is going to potentially collapse. So when China's holding all those cards, you got to step back and ask yourself, why are we so intent on pissing them off? It's crazy.
Perfect, man. Perfect. This is, I hope people watch this video in Brazil. I really do. This is extremely important for people to understand. So I would like to move to another subject. We already talked about, BRICS, United States BRICS, economic war. I would like to move to Ukraine, but first, ask everybody to
No,
like,
you
share,
don't.
subscribe.
You don't want to move to Ukraine. You're better off in Italy. Stay in Italy.
I'm staying here, but from here, I'll
Yeah.
move the subject to Ukraine.
Oh, okay.
A subject, not myself.
Shifting gears. Yes.
Shifting gears, moving to Ukraine. But before, I would like to ask everybody to like, share, subscribe to the channel. Of course, watch it. If you're watching on Larry's channel, find him on sonar21.com. You're going to find all this absolutely marvelous work that we do here. The best of the best that Larry participates. I'm sure this is the one. Now I'm just bragging.
Very
And
kind.
I would
Very
like,
kind.
and I am very happy to enunciate that we just reached 5,000 subscribers, Larry, just today. This
Good.
day. So you're the first
Moving right along.
5,000.
Yeah.
You were the first 0 subscriber on the channel, and now you're the first 5,000 subscriber. Amazing, man. So yeah, about Ukraine, we have the 7 days deadline, which is about what, 3 days now. What's going on that?
You mean it's Thursday? So Tuesday.
It's
Wednesday,
Thursday. Okay. Yeah, 2 days from now. What's going to happen after that? End of the world? NATO
Nothing.
war? Nothing. That's disappointing.
Yeah, Trump will. Well, there's nothing. What can Trump do? He can quote put sanctions on Russia. What's left to sanction? There's no. It's not like they've withheld the really powerful things that could hurt Russia. Those have been in place. Oh, they're going to impose tariffs on the small amount of trade that the United States has with Russia. Well, those are critical. Fertilizer is a critical item. You start putting a tariff on fertilizer, then the farmer is going to be paying more for fertilizer, which means the price of food is going to go up. It's going to be inflationary. The only
Uranium? No.
Yeah, uranium fluoride, I think it is. It's the processed fuel that goes into reactors. It's not a majority, but it's still there. It's significant enough that it shows up in statistics. So then sanction third parties. Well, third parties are China and India, and they basically already told the United States, "Hey, fuck off. We don't care. You're not going to tell us who we can trade with and who we can't trade with, and we're certainly going to not break relations with Russia. So, bye." And so,
Brazil.
Yeah. Well, and Brazil has joined into that. So, here you've had Trump 5 months ago. Let's see, we're now in August, so 4 months ago in February. Countries are lining up to kiss my ass. So he said, they're kissing my ass. They can't wait to cut a deal. Really? How's that worked out? I look at that line. It's not stretching around the block. And I don't see people with tubes of chapstick in their hands just, grease up their lips to kiss his, fatty ass. I mean, good Lord.
I forgot to ask because this became a non-subject for me. I forgot to ask. There's no line of countries to kiss his butt. I thought there were. Every day they're telling us on Truth Social that, and Caroline Lewitz talking about how Trump is the best president ever in the entire universe, and he has 98% approval rate among 3 people. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just again they're deceiving themselves. The warning, the yellow lights are flashing. They're warning that there's trouble ahead and trouble behind. To quote the Grateful Dead. The labor market, they were expecting more jobs to have been created. Turned out the number was way below what was anticipated. Trump has a fit, fires the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, even though that woman's not the one who produced the statistics. There is a methodology that's been followed, and I believe it has not been followed in a partisan manner. And the problem is it's all estimates. So however this estimate was done, Didn't meet what everybody expected. That's number one. The industrial production dropped. It declined. So, and then retail sales are down, significantly from comparing this year to last year. So the economy is really not doing great, which may explain why Trump is so insistent that Jerome Powell lower the interest rate. Lowering the interest rate doesn't mean that consumers immediately are going to have a lower interest rate to pay, but it means banks pay less for the money they borrow, and that works its way through the economy. But ultimately, that will have a stimulative effect. But it also creates the United States has a debt problem. We owe so much money, and now the question is, are other people willing to trust us to ever pay that money back? Are they willing to continue to lend us money so we can spend it with the promise, we'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
That's Popeye.
Yeah, Wimpy from Popeye. Yeah.
Wimpy.
Yeah. So, I don't think the economy is doing as great as Trump says it is, but the effect is not going to be I don't think we're going to start seeing the full negative effect until mid-September, maybe into early October.
Those kind of things take very long time to be noticed. And of course, we are already in a downstream from the United States for a very long time. So perhaps what we think it's something that just Trump is doing, and he's not doing anything good in any case anyway. But it's just something that is a continuum, history continuum for a long time. But back a little bit to Ukraine, Larry, we have some concerns. This Kaliningrad story that NATO is talking about, invading and taking off Kaliningrad, plus the installation of gravity bombs. Does this actually happen?
Yeah.
The moving of
the gravity bombs happened. So they moved them back in first time in 17 years. So again, that sends a real alarming message to Moscow that now, granted, those bombs to be used, they got to be strapped onto an airplane, and the odds of of a U.S. aircraft penetrating Russian airspace and successfully dropping it is low. But nonetheless, it has, it's one more way to raise tensions. It's more what the United States is saying that is creating alarm.
Yeah, just Medvedev tweeted, posted on his Telegram channel yesterday that due to the newly developments, Russia is starting to move away from the embargo of medium and short-range missiles on the borders of Belarus and St. Petersburg or everything near Europe anyway. But this I'm gonna go back to one of the first programs I did here with Andrei Martyanov, where I asked him, and I'm gonna ask you the same question 2 years apart. Looking at the confidence of Russia and all the technology on hyperspeed missiles, hypersonic missiles, do you think, Larry, that in a case of a nuclear exchange, Russia believes it can outtake or defend itself from the aggression? In an example, what you just mentioned, the airplanes with gravity bombs, they have to take off, they have to move, they have to launch the bombs. that's not a big deal to be taken care of. How do you believe Russia has the confidence that it can withhold a nuclear strike?
Yes, there's
Yes.
something. Yes, I mean they've got. I think their array of various air defense systems, but that's S-400, S-500, S-550 in particular. That they would have let's put it this: they would have a reasonable chance of surviving. Now they don't view. I think it's their absolute last resort, of course. But they've also are smart enough to know that it could actually come to that. And so if it comes to that, are they going to be in a position to defend themselves? The answer there is yes. I mean, they've taken, it's fascinating to put the United States and Russia side by side. Russia in terms of land mass is 4 times the size of the United States. Russia has more natural resources, part in part by virtue of its size, than the United States. Both countries right now are having children at below the replacement level, which means in Russia, the number is estimated to be to anywhere 1.4 to 1.8. And in the United States, it's 1.6 to 1.8. So, they're roughly the same. The difference is Russia is providing financial incentives to women to have children. They are paying money for set aside for kids that would even pay for their college. They provide extended leave. My point is, they've actually got a national program in place that provides a variety of benefits and incentives for people to have children. In the United States, they don't. We haven't done that. There's no government policy on that. The same applies to preparing for a nuclear war. They've got the metro stations will serve as bomb shelters, and they are stocked with food, with water, with medical supplies. They've prepared for that. They're not going to wait till the last minute and say, "Oh God, they're going to hit us, and we got to go quick, run to the hardware store and buy up."
Run to the hills.
Yeah. So, just from the standpoint of preparation, Russia's prepared for the possibility and calculates that it could survive. The United States would not survive. The United States has no plan in place other than maybe trying to save the very top leadership of the country, flying them away to a mountain in, West Virginia, where they can be kept safe. But for what purpose?
Yeah, this is a very strange moment, and it all comes because of a Twitter exchange. How is that possible? Are we close to nuclear exchange because of Twitter?
No, it's good. It's going to have more to do. It's going to be actions. The Russians really don't pay that much attention to it. And that's why they allow Medvedev to be the chief troll of Russia. He knows how to get a reaction out of Donald Trump.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
He can actually go inside the man's mind.
Yeah,
he can make him freak out very much. It's really funny to watch that when it's not nuclear exchange. When we're talking about, Larry, we are on 45 minutes. Do you think we can go for Israel? And I have a bonus question.
Yeah.
Okay,
go ahead.
So we had this recent documents kind of putting Epstein in like working for Mossad. And just yesterday, I saw some news that Ghislaine's father was working with the KGB. So which one is it, man? Are we facing the destruction of the United States because of Mossad or KGB?
Well, no, Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell, he was a Jew who escaped the Holocaust of World War II and became a British intelligence officer, but ultimately was recruited and working for Israeli intelligence.
Oh,
And the story is that when he stole like $400 million worth of a pension fund, and he was under pressure to pay it back, he tried to put pressure on the Mossad, on the Israelis, to give him the money and justifying, hey, look at all I've done for you. And basically, if you're not going to help me, then I may have to go out and sell my story about what I did for you. Well, they were, Israel wasn't going to be blackmailed. So they reportedly they killed Ghislaine's father. These Mossad is definitely implicated throughout the Epstein saga. And I think it's very true that Trump is in those files, maybe if nothing else, just because he was called to testify against Jeffrey Epstein in a previous legal action. So, but ultimately, I think what the pressure to keep it quiet is a combination of protecting Israeli intelligence and protecting a number of very wealthy, prominent men whose lives would be potentially ruined or destroyed, in the same way that Prince Andrew at least caught a lot of heat.
yeah. So the important thing now, I think, is this Israeli government letter. The Shin Bet plus Mossad agents and IDF generals writing this letter that is important to stop the war in Gaza, because it's starting to look bad for them, what they're doing. How do you take this, Larry? Because I don't take this seriously, and at the same time, it just looked like a propaganda coup. How do you take this?
When a letter like that in a country as small as Israel, it's one thing for 500 top-ranking intelligence and law enforcement and military officials in the United States to send a letter. Well, the country's 330 million, so 500 people. So what? Israel, it's probably now around 7 million people. So 500 individuals who are actually prominent and well known, including like Ehud Barak, the former prime minister. Their voice carries some weight, and it adds further pressure to Netanyahu. The problem is the supporters on the Netanyahu side are these rabid Zionists, and so there's no bridging that gap. I think it's going to continue to erode the support for the government of Netanyahu.
Yeah, I don't understand what's going on. Just today, I learned that the prosecutor that is charging Netanyahu with his corruption crimes, he was just laid off from his job.
Yeah.
And so because they were going to have a judgment on him, and then Israel invaded Gaza. And then, no, we are at war. We have to postpone this. And then it was the thing with Lebanon. And then it was the thing with Syria. And then last time they postponed his judgment because he had some, diarrhea or something like that. Netanyahu.
Yeah.
So is Israel running out of weapons? So now diarrhea is a good excuse for.
But Israel's in a vulnerable position. They have literally exhausted their military, and they've been unable to defeat Hamas. And now they're active militarily in the West Bank, as well as in Lebanon, as well as in Syria. So they don't have unlimited resources. So you got to figure out who's going to do what and where, and it's putting strains on the society. They're showing that the number of cases of post-traumatic stress disorder have dramatically increased.
I heard the suicides have.
Yeah.
I cannot use this word on YouTube. Whatever. I already did. Yeah. I would like to ask you a question. kind of a statement
Sure.
because it's very, very not understood in Brazil whatsoever. Did the United States slash Israel completely obliterated Iran and the other powers to be, Hamas, Hezbollah, and this poor Syrian resistance?
Hmm.
Did the United States and Israel completely obliterated these enemies of them?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
No, this is the question. Did Israel and the United States completely let's use it simple, Iran completely obliterated Iran, won the 12-day war against Iran?
Well, I mean, Trump wasn't claiming that he never declared that he obliterated Iran. He claimed that he destroyed Iran's ability to enrich uranium. Let's be precise about what he was claiming. I mean, he makes the bombastic claims, but and the response to that, I would say, is no. They're claiming that they destroyed a capability that still is in place, I believe.
No, I ask you that because a lot of people, I kind of understand that those are probably bots. Come to the chat and said that no, Israel completely destroy Iran. Iran cannot do anything, but barely can survive or stuff like that. And I don't know. I don't think that's true.
Yeah, what's been happening of the Russians have been flying these massive military cargo planes into Iran. I'm sure they're rebuilding, resupplying Iran with both air defense and other components. So Iran is, if anything, it's made Iran stronger. Iran's taken steps this last week to restructure, reshuffle their national security decision-making process. So before they had, I'm not sure what the name of the council was called, but it was, basically under the control of the civilian leadership, although the, Ayatollah Khamenei had ultimate say. But now they've restructured it in a way that the power of the Iranian president is reduced and the power and voice of the military and intelligence services increased. So Iran's getting ready to go to war again. They're not going to launch a preemptive strike, but they will be ready to retaliate with much more force than they did this last time.
That's exactly what I've been thinking about. I play dumb. I'm not that stupid.
Oh, no.
You're
not stupid.
It's okay. Bonus question, Larry, because I always forget that I have the amazing opportunity to be talking to a former CIA agent and
CIA officer,
intel analyst officer.
Yeah, let's do, because an agent within CIA language, an agent would be someone like you. If I recruited you, if you agreed to sell me secrets of the government of Italy, you would be a CIA agent. You're somebody working for the CIA on behalf of the CIA, but you're not an officer. So go ahead.
Exactly. That's the language problem, because in Portuguese we say agent, as the guy with
agente.
CIA. Agente. So I have one question, because yesterday you talked in the Judge something that I have talked with you some months ago about the Donald Trump's, mental situation, which is very interesting for me, because I remember when Biden took the office, his mental situation was not the best. It was an old man, but it was not completely demential as it came to be months later, not too far from the beginning. Donald Trump before he was taking the office, his mental situation, fight, all of those things, his mental situation seemed very stable. And now it's also decaying very, very fast.
Yeah. No, it's there's one word called confabulation. Confabulation means that you're telling lies, but you're not deliberately trying to deceive. You actually believe those things are true. And it could be something like saying, when I was out washing my car yesterday, I saw a leprechaun in the bushes. And this leprechaun was a very nasty sort of person. Well, leprechauns don't even exist. But, and if you say, why are you telling me this? Because they don't exist. Oh, no, I saw it. That's an example of confabulation. That's what Trump is doing, a lot of confabulation of late. Not getting numbers straight, or they released an audio tape of him doing that, where he said that he'd called and warned both Putin and Xi that he was going to bomb their cities, bomb the hell out of their cities, Moscow and Beijing, and that he was making that claim when he wasn't even president. So how the hell could he make that phone call? I mean, that's an example. So yeah, no, he's mentally deteriorated, and I think he needs to be removed from office.
I like the leprechaun example, Larry, because my question was, what was the MK Ultra project from the CIA? Well, I don't want to put you on the spot here.
Yeah, well, I had no exposure to it. I had no involvement with it. It was supposed to be terminated in the early 70s, but it was basically involved a lot of use of narcotics, LSD in particular, as a way to try to get control over people's thoughts, mind control. That's the simplest answer.
Okay. That I think that answered the question.
Let me put it this way. If it was a successful program, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing these days. They'd have me under control.
Or, wearing very colorful T-shirts with those round glasses somewhere on the beach.
Yeah. They can handle that.
Man. Yeah, man. Well, lots of times of LSD might not be very good for the brain, for sure.
I would agree.
Well, not even one time. People stay away from drugs. Message of the day. Larry Johnson, my great friend, thank you very much once again. And now I can tell my friends that I'm a friend of someone that is best friend of Roger Waters.
There you go. Muito obrigado.
Muito obrigado. Again, everybody remember to follow Larry on sonar21.com. If you're following the IDM, the Press of Mass Destruction, like, share, subscribe. Don't forget to watch all the videos and fantastic conversations that I have with Larry and so many other people. My friend, thank you again for another conversation, and fantastic conversation and meeting like this.
Ciao. We'll see you next week.
Time.
Okay.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.